All right, so our final lightning talk. Get your noises together. Come on. All right. I'd like to introduce to you my friend, former youth pastor and convert. Here is Mr. Clint Perry.
How do you write a speech when Luke calls you and says, do you think you'll do a lightning talk in front of 800 men? And it's, Dan was talking about humbling. It is pretty humbling. Rob said youth pastor. I've been a worship pastor a long time. I love working with kids, though, and I was also a kids musician for years. But how many converts are out there, actually, like me? Well, that's actually quite a few. I just came into the church in April. Thanks. It's actually been amazing, and I don't want to come up here and plug COR all the time, but without that, my life would be so different, even right now, just in the last 6 months. So I do encourage you. I'm at OLP, and I'm always asking people out there, come to a COR, because I personally just love it. But, you know, there's a lot of stories from the converts out there, and I'm sure they're amazing. I am sure that there's just so many ways God worked in your life to bring you home, and I'd love to hear them all, but right now you're going to hear mine. So I do have to confess, in my speech that I wrote, I say I'm 6'6". I am 6'5" and 3/4. I do up a little bit, but so picture the 6'6" guy. At that point, I probably weighed about 320 pounds. I just on my knees bawling, and I'm probably going to do it now. And I get emotional because I thought I loved Jesus before, and after he picked me up and changed me, I can't even express how much I love him now. On my knees, I'm bawling. It's almost 10 years ago to the day. My marriage is on the brink of ruin. My kids hate me, and they don't know why. But I will tell you this, that evil is real, and evil does not just surround you. Evil has dark tendrils that move through that home, that move through your life, that touch other people. And I heard some things in some of the speeches today that I actually jotted down into my notes so I could add them, and it's, you know, Father Nathan said, darkness comes when you snuff out that light. And at this point in my life, I had snuffed out that light. I just tapped out, as he said, and my kids didn't know why they didn't like me. My wife certainly knew why she didn't like me at that point in time, and she's definitely a hero of mine for her forgiveness. But we were just on the brink of ruin. If God was there, his voice was having a hard time being heard, and his forces were being battled by something greater for the soul of our family. And you know what? I grew up a man of faith. I was evangelical all my life, and I knew what the Bible said, and I knew that in Luke 12:2 and in Mark 4, it said those things that are in your life that are dark will come to light. And they sure did. And, you know, sitting at my little spot over here, I couldn't help but notice the Man Fully Alive banner right here, which is the end of that chapter, Luke 12:43, where from secrets being revealed all the way to a man being fully alive, and I feel like that actually was my life. It was just a very dark time. It came to light in a big way. It was a secret no more, and I thought that was the beginning of the end. And honestly, it was the beginning of a whole new life for me and my family. I let Luke read the speech, and he's like, it's great, just don't read it. So I'm like, oh man, now I have to memorize my 3 pages of words. So forgive me as I look at some of my notes, but you know, the beginning of this transformation is the theme that was here, transformed. It was, I never saw it coming. You know, in the midst of it, I could never have seen the good. I could never have seen the promises that God had for me and my family. Luckily enough, you know, our family built a long time ago that foundation of our life, even if I had fallen on the rock of his salvation and not the sand. How many of you know that story? Build your house upon the rock and not the sand. And that whole house might have crumbled, but that foundation that was built upon that rock still stood. And for, you know, that rock of Jesus Christ, I hope you all build your lives on that rock of Jesus Christ. There's nothing that's going to hold you up better than that. that the house, the foundation was teetering. One thing I tell my wife, which is kind of interesting after that time, is in our life for a while, it was like I had broken a vase, and I was able to pick that vase back up, and I was able to glue it back together, but you could see those cracks in that vase still. And then there's a Japanese art where you gild it with gold and make it more beautiful. And he's done that in our lives, for sure. But, I'm just here to tell you that he picked me up out of that squalor, that muck, that mire. He said, nope, I'm not letting you go anymore. You've fallen far enough. And he sent me on a journey back home. And that the funny thing is home was a different road, and home was into the Catholic Church. I started this journey in 2013. And funny enough, I just found out that the first time I stepped foot into a Catholic church was in Oceanside, California, and it was on Divine Mercy Sunday, which is exactly what I needed at that time. And I remember just being in awe. I don't know how much the converts do about Protestantism or evangelicalism, but a lot of things I had always known were just untrue. So I spent basically 10 years learning the truths and finding my way home. And it was awesome, and really, I just want to say that nothing can transform your life like the power of the Holy Spirit through God and the Son. There's nothing that can transform your family's life, your friend's life, even your enemy's life, like the God we serve. But you have to chase after him. You can't just be complacent. I realized coming to the faith that ultimately the goal of this church, the goal of the Catholic Church is coming into it, is that the church itself is trying to help us with that. A lot of my Protestant friends still are like, oh, I don't like the church and the liturgicalness, and they're so rigid. And I realized that the church actually is doing nothing more than trying to help us move in the direction of Christ all the time. St. Paul in the New Testament talks about running the race, and he likens our faith a lot of times to staying in that race. And I thought, that's kind of like a marathon, and I've never run a marathon, but I kind of liken it to that. It's like the marathon, this crush of people, the church, right? This crush of people is moving all in one direction, and you're in the church, but you have to chase after that too. You can't just stand there at 1 mile and hope you end up at 26 miles later. You have to move too. But the church, the marathon, the crush of those people are helping you. And I have run some 5Ks, and I know that without training that I just walked the whole thing, especially that Fatherhood 5K, which is pretty much all uphill. And then Luke makes fun of me for my 13-minute mile. Where is he out there? But, I want nothing more than to emulate Christ in my life. I hope that everybody who ever meets me just goes, gosh, that guy's following Christ's footsteps. There's nothing more valuable or more important than his love and his salvation in our life. And he can transform me. He can take me, who thought I was this pious, great Christian, at 39 years old, who fell off a cliff, almost ruined his whole entire life. Sometimes I think back on that. Take me out, put me on a path back home into the Catholic Church, transform my life, transform the lives of my family, my friends, just in a spirit of blessing. And I just love these guys. I came here last year by myself. God called me here. He invited me. And I ate lunch alone. And this year, there's 80-plus faces out there through just the last 6 months of being in Inferno and with these core groups that I really call like great and true friends. I mean, even Luke has just become such a great friend in my life. And I just really appreciate them. If you're not in a group, it is amazing. And I just come to my house. I'll do it all the time if you want. But on that note, I did get permission from Luke. Being a worship director for a long time, we have an idea to start a core group, COR, but to call it Jam COR. And it's going to be kind of geared more towards the high schoolers and the college kids that might be in here. But we'd like to start a core that's similar to the other ones, where we have brotherhood and fellowship, community, vulnerability, but centered around music. So if you have an interest, you play an instrument of any kind, you'd like to talk to me about that afterwards, I'd love to start building up that group, because we'd like to build up leaders in worship out there as well. So just come see me. You can't miss it. The Converse shirt with the black jacket over the top. My name's Clint Perry. I love you guys. Thank you so much, and you have a great rest of this Inferno conference.
All right, thank you, Clint.